Hi, welcome to Danny After Dark. If you're new here, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss a notification or a new episode. Tonight, I'll be featuring the case of the murder of Skylar Neese. So let's go ahead and find out more. Let's go ahead and dive on in. Skylar Neese was born on February 10th, 1996. She lived in Star City, West Virginia. Her best friends were Sheila Eddy and Rachel Shove. Skylar and Sheila had been friends since grade school, but the three girls were inseparable from each other. July 6th, 2012, 16-year-old Skylar, an honor student, disappeared from her home in West Virginia. She disappeared around midnight after she had just gotten home from working a shift at her job at the local Wendy's. According to her father, David Neese, the apartment complex that they lived in had a surveillance video system set up. So this should be able to help investigators see if they can determine what happened to his daughter. Well, the system showed that Skylar left the apartment by window around midnight and got into what appeared to be an unknown car. Skylar's father said that she did not take her cell phone charger with her and she left the window open. So this indicated she did plan on coming back home. Well, for months, police investigated several leads into Skylar's disappearance, but they all turned out to be dead ends. In fact, initially, she was considered to be a runaway by law enforcement, so the case was treated as such. Police ended up determining that unknown car that Skylar was last seen getting into actually wasn't an unknown car. It belonged to one of Skylar's best friends, Sheila Eddy. Sheila finally admitted to police she did pick up Skylar that night around midnight, but she had dropped her back home about an hour later. Sheila even posted a tweet saying, quote, "Skylar, you'll always be my best friend. I miss you more than you could ever know," end quote. Well, police still couldn't find any leads on what happened to Skylar, so the FBI joined the search on September 10th, 2012. When they joined, they began interviewing all of Skylar's school friends. A major break in the case finally occurred when they were interviewing Rachel Shove, again, one of Skylar's other best friends. And Rachel cracked to investigators. She finally admitted that she plotted to kill Skylar along with Sheila Eddy. David Neese was stunned. These two girls were among his daughter's best friends. In fact, they helped the family try to look for Skylar. They even distributed missing persons flyers. Well, after the confession, Rachel led investigators to Skylar's body. March 13th, 2013, U.S. Attorney William J. Einfeld II released a press conference statement stating that a body was found in Wayne Township, Greene County, Pennsylvania. January 16th, 2013, those remains had been identified as belonging to Skylar Neese. Where they were found was less than 30 miles away from her home. May 1st, 2013, Rachel pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. She told authorities that she and Sheila killed Skylar. Rachel said that she and Sheila picked up Skylar in Sheila's car. The girls drove to Pennsylvania, got out of the car, and just began to chat and socialize. At a pre-arranged time, Rachel and Sheila started stabbing Skylar to death on the count of 3. Rachel later admitted the reason that they killed Skylar was because, quote, "they don't want to be friends with her anymore," end quote. They thought that if they just ended their friendship, they worried that Skylar might divulge any of their secrets. Now, they attempted to bury Skylar's body, but they weren't able to. So instead, they simply covered her body up with nearby branches. According to Rachel's plea agreement, she pleaded guilty to murder in the second degree by, quote, unlawfully, feloniously, willfully, maliciously, and intentionally causing the death of Skylar Neese by stabbing her and causing fatal injuries, end quote. In the plea agreement, the state of West Virginia would recommend a sentence of 20 years of incarceration. Rachel's family issued a public apology for her actions, but they did it through a lawyer. Following her guilty plea on May 1st, 2013, Rachel was currently awaiting sentencing on charges of second-degree murder. September 4th, 2013, West Virginia prosecutors publicly identified Sheila Eddy as the second alleged perpetrator of the murder of Skylar, and they announced that she would be tried as an adult. Sheila was indicted by a grand jury on September 6, 2013, with one count of kidnapping, one count of first-degree murder, one count of conspiracy to commit murder. Sheila pled not guilty to all of these charges. The trial date was originally set for September 28, 2014, but on January 24th, 4 days before the trial, Sheila changed her former not guilty plea and finally decided to just plead guilty to first-degree murder with mercy. So Sheila was sentenced to life imprisonment, but she'd be eligible for parole after she first served 10 years. Under the agreement, a kidnapping charge and 2 counts of conspiracy were then dropped. Now, Sheila was extremely visibly upset after she entered the courtroom. In fact, her voice broke when the judge asked her, how did she plead? Quote, guilty, end quote, Sheila said. She declined to address the court prior to her sentencing. February 2014, Rachel was sentenced to 30 years in prison. Now she will be eligible for parole in 15 years. Skylar's father, David Neese, told the court that since the day of his daughter's disappearance, quote, my life and my wife's life have been drastically altered. We're no longer a family. You can look into the eyes of those who were responsible, but you can never know what they heard as they were taking her life, end quote. And that is the case of the murder of Skylar Neese. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Danny After Dark. Do you have any questions or comments on the case? Leave it down below. Let's be interactive. This is a little bit of a different case. These were all just kids. Finally, do you have a case suggestion you'd like me to cover? Well, leave it down below, and you may see it featured in an upcoming episode. Until next time, remember, we don't live in darkness. Darkness lives in us.